However, surveys could include more about classification, for example, review of the trends. Could we also highlight the challenges, the overview of the challenges from the surveys that have been explored or discussed in the surveys. So this is basically the contribution mostly from the surveys is to highlight the trends, the challenges. Also could include some sort of classification to guide researchers, newcomers to the fields. In terms of the related works and contributions, there are basically two surveys that we could include in the related work. The first one is by Mohammed Alharbi, Survey of Surveys, which overview all of the surveys in the InfoVis, information visualization. Also, there is another survey that include some sort of survey of surveys in their related work, which is Koch and Karen, 2015. In their short paper, they include kind of comparisons between surveys. So we said we included this to just see how to see their also comparisons and benefit from it. In our review, we aim to describe the existing surveys in more depth than McNabb and Laramee, and more breadth than Koch and Karen in a specific field, which is text visualization. Our contributions are the first focus survey of surveys in text visualization, a novel classification of text surveys in the reviewed literature, helpful meditator in order to facilitate comparison of the surveys, also a unique and valuable starting point for newcomers to the field, also to the experienced researcher in text visualization. This is the basic contribution of our paper to the field. We have collected about exactly 13 surveys that overview text visualization approaches. They span from 2010 to 2017. This graph shows the surveys and the number of approaches in the blue and the number of citations each survey attracts. So we could see that Koch and Karen survey overview around 400 paper. In this, when I plotted this, it was 380, and now it is, because it's up to date, it's 400. Also, we could see some other papers that has citations more than the reviewed approaches. And this is the first surveys of text visualization in 2010. This is the survey classification that we based our work on. We have classified our surveys, the 13 surveys that we saw, into 5 groups, 5 classification. We based our classification, as we see in the first 3, based on the nature of the classification, how they classify their approaches. There are some classification, they base their classification or they classify their approach based on the document-centered type, like if it's a single, or is it a collection, or corpus, in this manner. So they base their classification on this. Some of the surveys base their classification on the user task analysis. So they started by classifying the documents or the approaches based on the user tasks, and then they start their classification based on that. And there are there are surveys that has multiple classification within their paper, like Koch and Karen and Warner et al. They have multiple classification to classify their literature. There are other two classification or two groups that we grouped some of the literature, some of the surveys in, like the cross-disciplinary classification, which includes mostly digital and humanities surveys. That any surveys within this classification always aim towards digital humanities task, like close and distant reading. Also, we have included some of the surveys in a specific group called satellite themed, which mean they have more generalized classification towards InfoVis, and they have a specific and classification for text. So we included two surveys in this satellite theme. In this table we see the approaches. Like there are 3 surveys on the first one, 2 in the second, and 4 in the multifaceted classification, and 2 in the cross-disciplinary, and 2 in the satellite theme. Yes. Some of the, for example, Yankee et al. Here and Yankee et al. Here, the extension. The Yankee 17 is extension of the Yankee 15. We have included also a section for survey recommendation to discuss the surveys, also to give some recommendations for newcomers or researchers in the fields. So we basically recommend 2 surveys from the multifaceted surveys and 1 from cross-disciplinary classification. The 2 multifaceted surveys are Warner et al. And Koch and Karen, and from cross-disciplinary is the Yankee 17. These 3 surveys are also highly cited, and they are quite different. They are not similar to each one another. For example, Warner et al. Present a classification based on the event detection methods. Their collection is based on the literature of visual analytics. They also provide the first pipeline for visual analytics. They have about 50 approaches within their collection, and they didn't include all of the text visualization approaches, because they are looking for an approach that include event detection and a unique algorithm, event detection algorithms. Kocher and Karen is the most comprehensive survey of text visualization. They combine the paper by a text visualization browser, which include now 400 approaches. It's up to date. You can enter the approaches manually, and we noticed there are some mistakes within the entries. But basically they have their classification, and you could like search for any approach by keywords, and the results will be shown on the main page. The last one is Yankee et al., and it's more toward the digital humanities, and they base their classification on 2 main tasks. The first one is for the close reading, and the second one is for distant reading. Also they include for the combined one between close and distant reading. And they also map this classification to like color encodings and size and some visualization encodings. They included for their extended versions around 200 papers. For this also we have analyzed the metadata for these 3 surveys. the first word cloud column here is generated by Edwardle word cloud website. This is the 1R1, the event detection paper, and we could see that it highly shows some discriminatory words like detection, event, methods, text, data, visual, which shape the body of the paper. Koch and Karen, we also noticed like taxonomy, visualization techniques, text survey, which also highlight the most contribution of their work, which is the classification, the extensive classification of their work. Yankee, which is more about digital humanities, we could see like reading, distant, digital, humanities, text, and close and distant, which also shape the body of the paper. The second column for our analysis also show kind of word cloud, but it's based on our computation of the TF-IDF to show the most. This is based on the frequency of the words, and this is based on the TF-IDF, which means the importance of the word among all of the surveys. So we could see that event pops up in one, which means it's a discriminative word within one among all of the collection. Visual technique, also we could see taxonomy here is one of the words within Koch and Karen. Yankee, we could see distant, read, which means reading, close reading, humanities, and all of the text here is lemmatized, which means each of the words are returned to its original form. Also, we have summarized the challenges and discussed the challenges in our paper, and we compared all of the challenges among all of the surveys with the surveys by McNabb and Laramee. We could see there are about 4 or 3 challenges that dominating. For example, scalability is an issue within text visualization. Also, the advanced techniques, the advanced linguistic techniques is a quite challenging challenge within the whole, or like 6 or 7 surveys. Also, the lacking of in-depth and effective quantitative and qualitative evaluation is challenging among most of the surveys that we survey, also within our surveys of InfoFizz. Also, the natural language ambiguity and uncertainty is definitely a challenging issue within text because of the natural language in general. Also, we could see that there are some kind of multidisciplinary framework challenges, especially when they speak about the cross-disciplinary papers. They also talk about this kind of the community lacking the framework when they work together, the collaboration framework. That's all, and thank you for listening. How much time?
Any questions for Mohammed?
16 minutes, I'm not sure.
Okay, that's good.
I would say 15-ish.
Yeah.
So the time is good.
I can start. Can we go back one before end? Yeah. The table.
Okay, the challenges.
Yeah, this one. So I can see some citation, but you didn't put any text. So maybe you told us, but I couldn't.
Oh, you mean the surveys, the name of the...
Yeah. So, but why did you include these citations?
Because maybe I should include some like descriptive names.
Mm-hmm.
in front of the. This is the latex name, so I assumed it's the names are not really important. But yeah.
I wouldn't say that when one of the authors
Yeah.
saying just right here.
Well, I will refer to the page or to the reference.
Actually, my question was different.
Okay.
So, you know, you have some feature challenges. So there are some citations, but you didn't put any take. It means that you don't have any challenge in this paper you found.
Yes, for example, this paper, Koch and Karen.
Yes, like this
here,
one.
Koch and Karen didn't list any challenges at all in their short paper.
Yeah.
They most contributed. Their contribution is about taxonomy and so they didn't provide any challenges.
Okay. So
Yes.
can we go related work? Like it seems a little bit crowded. Like instead of saying like you can say during presentation, but I think it will be better to not write everything on the slide. And
Agree. Yes.
yeah, can we go recommendation part? Like after that, and one later.
Okay. Recommendation.
One more. Yeah, there's a spelling mistake. Warner et al. L-I.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's it. Thank you.
I saw one more. Can we go in visual, like the middle visual technique, you miss E?
Where is it?
Like in the box, visual technique,
This one?
one before. Like
Above.
upper, yeah, go. Yeah, this one, visual technique.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's because it's it's lemmatized.
A
So it's
technique is the
it's
root.
stamped, so
I
it's
see.
definitely not lemmatized. Since there's if it's lemmatized, it should be correct. This one is stamped, which means all of the words are chopped.
I know.
Just to
the definition is
yes,
limited.
but I don't think I because it might be technique, it might be technology. It's technique or even.
Oh, I see. I didn't
Yeah.
know
The
that.
taxonomy there as well.
Yes, most of the words is just chopped. Also humanities. This include humanities, any words of this root.
So can you, this word has any meaning, like
Which
in
one?
English, technique?
This one.
I don't know, like it must be meaningful, right?
Well, it's like
Chocolate.
it's a bit of the weird.
Yes, it's stemmed, which means all of the words, the ing, es, s, ed,
Yeah.
cut, and sometimes stemming is not really good,
Mm-hmm.
and it's understandable, and it's from the text visual analytics, text analytics. It's understandable because the aim is just to reduce the dimensionality of the text instead of having technique is not a really good example, but for example, human here. If I didn't chop the words, I would have humans, humanities, and humanitarian, and yeah. When for my case, I only need them to only be one word to be
The
human.
roots.
Yes. But if
There is some confusion here because that it's just in this case the E has been cropped. It's actually cropped by the rendering in the margins of this box rather than a result of any stemming.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
That's not the base form of any word.
well, it's not the base form. It's not lemmatization here. It's stemming, which I think if it's techniques, es.
Just
So
the base form of the word technique has an E at the end. So the smallest you can get that word is with the
yes,
E.
sometimes stemming is not really. I don't think. First of all, I don't think it's there is anything behind it. Yeah, because but I wrote in this book.
There's an error with the stemming algorithm.
Yes, always all of the stemming is less correct than, but it's much easier to do. Stemming is much easier to do than lemmatization. It's much faster. Lemmatization, it's lemmatization. It's always correct because you have this dictionary. You map this words
I
to.
think what Mohammed's trying to say is it's not his fault.
Yeah, I would just say, if I were you, I would not attribute this to stemming or lemmatization, the technique. I would just say the E is covered up by the margin.
Okay.
Because I actually don't
Take the
believe.
blame.
I don't believe it. Actually,
Well, I
don't
could show
believe
you
it.
the it's like the process. I could show you the Excel file because I
Okay.
always gather them in Excel file and just sort them.
But there's an error that is like technically an error. Even if the stemming procedure produces that, it's still an error. And maybe even if you demonstrated it to me and said, "Oh, look at what happens here, it is in the Excel file," I would say, "I want to see the input because I believe the input data has an error, and somewhere there's a stray space between a U and an E in the input file that caused that error."
There is techniques here. You see.
Yeah, I understand.
This one is by Eduardo.
I understand, and it has the E.
The E. So this, what's called prefix? Suffix.
Suffix.
So suffix is by the computer will see es, so it's a suffix. So chabit. So if it's I don't know.
I am not sure about that.
Okay.
I am not sure about that. I wouldn't argue that.
Yes,
I wouldn't
yes,
argue it.
I will add S.
I have another comment.
You could add an E
Okay.
if you want, or you could just say it's covered up by the margin.
Okay.
Yeah, so the one in the middle, you said it was like the text size was the frequency of the...
Yes, it's
Does the color map also represent something?
no, the color map is just arbitrary.
Okay.
Yes. Most the basic clouds, the the font is representing the frequency and the color is just.
Yeah, maybe you should mention that because I thought even the color map is representing something.
Yeah. I will do that.
I don't have any questions, but if we're still going on comments, there's like a
faint.
circle.
It's a
Yeah.
faint.
Yes, because it's there. You're always about the projector.
It is there. Oh, it is
yeah,
a projector. Oh,
yeah, you can
okay.
say,
Right.
There's
you
a
see?
table there as well.
I just it's kind of.
Oh, is it the same slide?
Yes, I just showed this one
Okay.
because we're still in the recommendation. So this is meta-analysis just to
Okay.
validate our.
You could just put that on the slide. I think
Yes.
that's enough information to justify it. Oh God, that's the projector. And if you go back to the main table, not that table, the
Yeah, I know you don't like this table.
well, not that, but multifaceted isn't capitalized.
Oh yes.
And
You know why, Bob?
Oh, right.
That's
I didn't
a
notice
new
that.
name.
I didn't notice
Yes,
that.
because we got a comment about our previous name, and we changed it to.
The little thing on top of the S stays there when you blank
Yes,
it out
it's
on the next one.
this one here. Yes, I see.
Yeah. You just still see the top of it.
Yeah.
That's
No, I saw it, but I don't think it's a big deal.
You mentioned close and distant reading. Can you explain what that is?
Yeah. No, that's my best part. That's my second part. I was waiting for this.
That was
Well,
the debate.
Close reading is when you present the actual text for like in a nutshell. When you read the text, when you visualize the text and you read it, that means close. But when you abstract the text and do some kind of analysis, computational analysis, and provide graphs of the book or chapters, like provide the book and graph showing the chapters and notes showing the like paragraphs, that's a close, that's a distant reading, and usually it's combined So you show the, for example, distant, and when you click in the paragraph, you show the close. That's basically the. Yes.
I don't have any questions. I'm thinking of questions that would lead you to talk about my survey. But I don't want to say them.
Well, I happily will do it.
Yeah.
Well,
We can ask
isn't
you to-
that enough?
It was a lot. I'm very appreciative.
We can ask you to stand up, Liam, if you want. There's Liam sitting over there. If anybody has any questions about the big SOS, you can ask Liam.
Well, I was tempted to say the
Why
big
newspapers
SOS.
aren't in it?
You can call it the big SOS if you want. It's
Well, Bob.
if that's what is considered as. Cool.
Any other comments? By the way, it is a good presentation.
Thank you.
It is a good one. It's a good quality. It's a very good quality first practice.
Yeah, I didn't really have any questions that came to mind.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Like the only thing that came to mind was the frame. I know you talked to me about the frameworks, and like I keep thinking about it because my paper does have it, but you're right because it wasn't talked about in the paper because it had to be like a threshold to be like talked about in the paper, whereas it didn't hit my threshold. So I remember writing about it, but it's not in the research. So it is true that I didn't notify it. So like it's in the text.
Oh, you mean the challenges?
Yeah, in the challenges. So like your last one, you talk about the framework, and you talked to me before about if they were the same thing.
I can't remember, to be honest, the
Well,
discussion.
But yeah, it's technically not like one of the challenges I talk about because it didn't meet the minimum threshold that I put out.
But,
So it's technically true.
What about that second to last one? What is the second to last one there?
it's the same. Kocha and Karen has two surveys.
Okay.
This one is the big Kocha and Karen one, and this one is text visualization, but basically about the sentiment and emotion analysis. So it has around 200 approaches, and basically it's like a duplicate.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
They have a subset of their big survey, and they have done some kind of specific analysis.
Is there an order to the future challenges?
No.
Is it based on frequency or is it just matched up?
I don't know. I think it's the first one appears to my.
Yeah, that's fair.
The order they were discovered in.
Yes.
Because I'm just wondering, because the
Yeah,
The
it
third
appears
one-
like the most. I think it's kind because I was counting. There are some challenges which appears only in one survey. Before. So.
Yeah, it's just because the evaluation is the highest ranked one in my survey.
Which one?
The third one on yours.
This one.
Yeah,
Yes.
and it looks like it's also the highest ranked in yours as well.
Yes, by one.
Which is kind of interesting.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, I think almost all of the surveys mention the lacking of the evaluation.
well, I picked up this as well. That's why. My only other comment is that I think the Swansea University logo has a white version, which would probably look nicer on your title
Okay,
bar.
yeah.
Just because it kind of cuts it off, with the white. I mean, I get it. But,
Okay, yeah. No, if there is a white, maybe it's more
Yeah.
items.
I have a few very small comments, really small. I think it would be nice when you started on your title slide to talk about just the general challenge of keeping up with the literature
Oh, yeah.
this is a very, very well-known challenge that everybody understands. Instead of digging right into, it's a big challenge that we have so many surveys. I think a better starting point is just to say it's, keeping up with the literature is very difficult. Therefore, people write survey papers.
Can I have a copy of this, by the way?
Yes.
And this is something. This is optional. The next comments are just optional, but I'm just going to tell them to you just so you know that I'm doing my job. So,
Yeah.
the name Yenica. So you pronounce the name Yankee a lot. You say Yankee et al.
Is Yannicka?
The name is Yenica.
Well, I don't know how to pronounce his name.
Yeah,
I got it from you.
I thought it was
Yes. Well, we was about to talk about his work, and I think I got
He's from
Yankee.
Germany.
Yes.
Okay, just so you know, it's optional. The correct pronunciation is Yenica.
Yeah, I was on the safe side because no one will see if I said
It's optional.
J.
It's an optional
that's
comment. I just have to say it. Like I cannot just let it be and then never
Just hope she's not there.
Yeah.
It's a guy.
It's a guy.
It's a male.
Yeah.
And like the thing that gives it away is the A umlaut. So there's an umlaut over the A, and that means there's an emphasis, like that gets the focus, the Yenica, and the other syllables are like whatever. At some point, I don't know which slide it was on because I don't see any slide numbers. But
there is slide numbers, but
okay.
It doesn't really show.
I think I know which slide it is. Can you keep going up? You were talking about the different words and how distinctive they are.
Yeah.
Maybe is this the one where you're talking
this
about
one I was talking about the
distinctiveness?
yes.
You were using a different word than distinctive. And I don't remember, I didn't write down what the word was that you were using.
I think discriminatory.
I don't know what word you were using, but I would use the word distinctive.
Yes.
The word you wanted to use was distinctive, but you got like you were using a word that I wouldn't recommend. I can't. Yeah, discriminatory is it's a word, but I would choose distinctive.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, it's like I said, it's not an absolute. It's not. These are very, very small comments that are kind of optional.
Something. No, this isn't a comment, but something interesting is that technically your paper is a state-of-the-art paper because it's there's only the text only goes back.
His name is paid off.
Yeah.
I wouldn't argue that though.
I wouldn't argue it, but like it's kind of funny. It's technically
I guess you could say
no
that.
papers beforehand. Well, no surveys beforehand. So.
There's another one on. I was surprised that on your slide entitled "Survey Recommendations," with the error. There is another one that is again. It's completely optional. On that, I thought you were going to say on the survey recommendations slide, the next one, Wanner is actually Wenner. It's the I'm pretty sure it's the A umlaut. Again, it's completely optional. It's not important.
Okay.
But
German,
if you want to know, it's there. And then you can see the A umlaut by Yenica et al.
Yes.
So I believe it's the same situation. But they're not going to be in the audience, so it's not. There's a small chance that somebody with some German will be in the audience.
Well, there's a high possibility. I would assume someone who can speak German in the audience.
I don't think it's a very big possibility. It's a UK based conference, and I don't see
last
many.
year there was 2 short papers from Germany.
Okay, that would be interesting.
Well, I was talking
Good.
about you, Bob.
Well, it doesn't matter to me. Like you wouldn't fix this. It wouldn't. This doesn't. You know, it wouldn't fix it just for me. Okay, I guess that's it.
I think maybe you should have border.
Yeah.
Each one of them.
Well, there is some borders.
No,
yeah.
black border.
Resolution.
So
There is some borders here, but because of the projector.
especially for the middle one.
Yes, yes.
Or
yes.
at least make it, resize it so it's fit
Yes.
between.
Yes, you're absolutely right. See, there is. Oh no, there is no one. Here is the border, but in the middle, the one.
If you're also interested, I always have an acknowledgement slide at the end.
Yeah, I did.
You have the. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
good.
Also,
good.
there's
Do you have
something.
the
Yeah.
citations for all?
Liam is there as well.
No, you should bold. You should write
Increase the
bold.
font size for that.
Yes, they have
Yeah,
coffee.
bold in.
Blinking.
Yeah.
I have something for you.
For Liam?
Anybody?
Brilliant.
It's something from the summer school.
Oh, wonderful.
Well,
Orange.
they are medium size.
Oh wow.
I got
That's funny.
extra large for Liam. I don't know if you are X or double X.
Always get the biggest size. There's no reason not to.
That's
On
funny.
the other side, there are, I think, some mediums and large. I took the mediums and I noticed.
You can do a lot of.
Well, yes, it was. They are like just distributing them for a pound. Yes, at the end it was £5, but at the end it was like £5. I said, thank God I didn't buy anything.
That's funny.
Yes, if you just help yourself. So the large and medium.